I never thought silence could have weight, but it pressed on me as I walked down the old stairs of the abandoned metro station. Each step echoed so loudly that it sounded like someone was walking directly behind me, though I was sure I was alone. At least, that's what I wanted to believe. The deeper I descended, the colder and heavier the air became, as if the station had long forgotten what fresh air felt like. When I finally reached the platform, I thought I heard a faint buzzing, not natural, but unnervingly steady, like electricity trying to wake up. The lamps above the platform flickered dimly, as though they were deciding whether they should illuminate whatever was hidden in the darkness. I stood still, and for a moment the light near the edge of the platform brightened, reaching just to the mouth of the tunnel. But nothing was there, only emptiness. I took a few steps forward. My footsteps stretched unnaturally across the walls, as if the platform were much larger than it looked. But what frightened me wasn't that. It was that after my steps faded, another echo followed, late, out of rhythm, like someone was imitating my steps but stumbling behind. I stopped sharply. The echo stopped too, but then came another one, a hesitant, delayed echo, as if something didn't manage to stop in time. I stood motionless. My throat felt dry. I stared into the tunnel, and I could swear something was there. No shape, no silhouette, just the overwhelming sense of a presence. So strong I wanted to step back, yet I was equally afraid to move and reveal myself. The lamp above me flickered once, twice. When it lit again, I thought I saw something at the far end of the tracks. Not a figure, more like a patch of darkness that seemed denser than the rest, as if a shadow had briefly gained weight. I exhaled and turned slightly, noticing the cracks in the wall. One of them was strange, too straight, as if someone had dragged a finger across the concrete, carving a long groove. I brushed my hand along the wall, and through the cold concrete I felt warmth, faint, but definitely there, like someone had touched the surface moments ago. That unsettled me more than the darkness. When I looked back at the tunnel, the light flickered again, this time longer, deeper. In that stuttering light I saw a brief glint on the rails. Not eyes, too reflective, too misplaced. More like light bouncing off something smooth. But as soon as the lamp steadied, the glint vanished. I decided to look closer. Even I found that absurd. Who willingly walks toward something strange lurking in a dark tunnel? But curiosity at that moment felt safer than standing still and imagining something worse. I stepped onto the tracks. They were unexpectedly warm, not warm like metal holding old heat, truly warm, as if a train had just passed moments ago. But no trains had run here in decades. I barely processed that when the lamp above the platform began flickering rapidly, almost frantic. In the shifting light, I thought I saw the shadow in the tunnel move sideways, then slide back into place. Not the way a person moves, more like the way smoke changes shape when someone walks through it. My heartbeat thudded loudly enough that it felt like the silence itself was trembling. I took another step forward, and behind me something fell, not loudly, but enough to make me whirl around. A fragment of concrete lay on the platform. I was sure it hadn't been there before. It looked freshly broken, yet the walls around me were intact, as if it had been placed there intentionally to catch my attention. That was when I felt the urge to leave. Right then, immediately. But as soon as I stepped backward, something in the tunnel made a quiet sound, very soft, very short, yet unmistakably like an inhale. I froze. The darkness in the tunnel looked heavier, now denser, as if something stood within it, not advancing, not retreating, just watching. I backed away slowly, but the echo of my step returned late again. One delayed step, then another, then a third. 3 echoes. Even though I'd taken only one step, the lights shut off. Absolute blackness swallowed everything for a single suffocating moment. In that darkness I heard something slide along the rails. Not fast, not threatening, slow, almost curious. A cold draft brushed across my shoulder, though I hadn't heard anything behind me. That was when I broke. I ran, stumbling along the platform, not caring where I stepped. And the whole time something followed, not briskly, not clumsily, just steady, uneven steps, as if trying to stay close without being noticed. When I reached the stairs, the lights behind me flashed on again, just for a moment, and in that fraction of a second I thought I saw a shape on the tracks, blurred, tall, still, watching me leave. I burst out of the station and didn't look back. Even after I ran out of the station, the coldness clinging to my back didn't fade. I kept glancing behind me, half expecting to see the darkness from the tunnel stretching across the pavement like a living shadow. Nothing was there, but the absence felt wrong, like an unfinished sentence. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the weight of that station beneath me, as if I were lying on the platform instead of my bed. The silence in my room was different, too still, too synchronized with the rhythm of the station's empty air. At some point, while trying to control my breathing, I heard a faint noise from the corner of my room. Not a sound exactly, more like the soft, shaky exhale I'd heard in the tunnel. I turned on the lights instantly. Nothing. But the air in that corner felt colder than the rest of the room. Over the next few days, I tried convincing myself that the entire experience had been a trick of the mind, the result of exploring a place I shouldn't have gone. Yet small things kept happening. Quiet things. Things easy to dismiss individually, but impossible to ignore altogether. Sometimes I heard faint tapping on the floorboards, evenly spaced like distant footsteps. Sometimes the lights flickered, always just above me, even when every other bulb in the room stayed steady. Once, while brushing my teeth, I saw in the mirror a flicker of movement behind me, a shadow darker than my own, but when I turned, there was nothing. What unsettled me most wasn't these signs. It was the growing sense that whatever was in that station was learning, as though it had watched me long enough to understand how I moved, how I breathed where I looked first when I entered a room. It felt like it was trying to imitate me the same way it had mimicked my footsteps on the platform. Weeks passed before I gathered enough courage to talk to someone about the station. I asked casually around the city, pretending it was just curiosity about forgotten places. Most people shrugged. A few said the station had been sealed decades ago due to structural risks, but there was one man older, with faint tremor in his hands, who paused when I mentioned the station's name. He asked where I heard it. I lied. He didn't believe me. Some places, he said quietly, aren't abandoned. They're left alone. What's the difference? I asked. He hesitated for a long moment before replying. An abandoned place is empty. A place left alone isn't. His tone made my skin crawl. I asked him what he meant, but he only shook his head and muttered something about echoes that aren't echoes anymore. Before I could press him, he walked away, disappearing into a crowd as if afraid someone might see him talking. That night, I woke up to the sound of my wardrobe door creaking open. Slowly, too slowly, as if someone were pushing it with deliberate caution. My heart hammered in my chest, and I lay absolutely still, forcing myself not to breathe too loudly. The room was dark, but I felt, not heard, that the air near the wardrobe was moving, shifting slightly, as though something inside had inhaled. I reached for my phone, flicking on the flashlight. The wardrobe was empty, but the floor in front of it was warm, just like the rails. I couldn't sleep after that. I sat in the living room with all the lights on, listening carefully to every sound, real or imagined. At one point I heard soft steps coming from the hallway, not approaching, not retreating, just pacing, as if something was wandering, exploring, unsure of the boundaries of the place it had entered. Around dawn, I dared to walk toward the hallway. The air grew colder with each step. When I reached the doorway, I froze. There were faint marks on the floor, thin, uneven streaks leading from the front door toward my bedroom. They weren't footprints nor anything I could describe clearly, just traces, as if something had passed through but wasn't fully solid. Not yet. That was when I realized something terrifying. I had left the station, but something had followed me. Not fully, not physically, but like a shadow that had slipped into the edges of my vision, slowly anchoring itself in my world. I felt it every day now, moving just out of sight, learning the shape of my home, learning the rhythm of my life. And late at night, when the lights flicker and the air grows unnaturally still, I sometimes hear those same delayed footsteps, the ones that once imitated me in the station, now echoing faintly somewhere behind my bedroom door. Every time the steps sound a little closer, a little more confident, a little more familiar, as if whatever watched me in the tunnel is no longer just observing. It's practicing.